Well, the US president has threatened to regulate or shut down social media companies a day after Twitter added a warning to some of his tweets. In the tweet, the president claimed that mail-out ballots could lead to corruption and fraud. In response, Twitter attached a fact-check link to articles debunking his claims. As futurist Mark Pesce explains, this codependent relationship is not a case of black and white.
Twitter was on its way to becoming a punchline in Silicon Valley until Trump ran for president, and they need each other. And in fact, the fact that Twitter is now labeling these tweets is only going to cause more controversy. It's really only going to help both of them. It really stirs the pot. And so I feel as though no one is really reading Donald Trump's tweets thinking that there's probably a lot of truth at essence there. And so the fact that they're tagging these as misinformation, is it going to make a difference? It's going to continue to produce the divide that Trump and Twitter are really good at creating.
And to that point, he's already weighed in, saying that it's, trying to shut him up, that it's fake media, that it's stifling free press. So it's really playing right into his hands.
This is the thing. They need each other. He needs Twitter to have that mouthpiece that talks directly to the hindbrain of the American public. And Twitter needs him because it brings all of the readers to the platform. So the more that they can stir this up, and I doubt this is the last round of it, the more both of them will benefit from it.
So how then do we look at these kind of social media sites and try and in some way get accuracy, get fact-checking out there?
What you need for fact-checking is curation, and curation is expensive. It involves editors, it involves fact-checkers, it involves whole armies of people, and none of these sites have really been designed for this, and they haven't built the infrastructure. You take a look, for instance, the opposite example is Wikipedia, where they have a huge volunteer infrastructure who spend the time checking and fact-checking and making sure the references are all there. It's free labor, but it's guaranteed to be then relatively truthful. These commercial organizations have never wanted to spend the time to do it, and so they've never had the ability to be able to fact-check anything. And in Facebook's case, they don't really want to fact-check because Facebook is really about stirring up controversy. It's really about getting people angry, and if you can spread misinformation and make people angry with that information, well, then it just serves their purposes. It keeps people engaged on the platform.
And to that very point, let's talk about a very interesting Wall Street Journal report that got their hands on an internal Facebook report that made it clear that the company is well aware of how divisive its content is, and it has decided to do nothing about it. How disturbing is that?
Well, it's more than they've decided to do nothing about it. They watch the users, they profile the users so intensely that they actually know that divisive content increases engagement. You spend more time on Facebook if you're angry. And so they really want to turn that dial up because they know that it's in their interest. If you're angry, you'll read more Facebook, you'll see more ads, they'll earn more money. It's just that simple.
And it says, literally in the report, our algorithms exploit the human brain's attraction to divisiveness. So their algorithms are working directly to stir us up, and we are just allowing ourselves to be, to buy into this process.
Well, we all love feeling that we're right. We all love feeling that we might be wronged in some way. And if Facebook is going to give it to us, well, then I guess we're just going to keep eating it.
So let's talk about the presidential 2020 campaign that's sort of been so impacted by the way we are all in lockdown and the ability to have rallies that really would be the normal process for the campaign. How then do you view how this is going to play out? We know the implications of Facebook during the last campaign. Are we just going to get the same thing again in 2020?
So my feeling is that all of the social media companies, Facebook and Twitter particularly, are very prepared to fight the last war. Just like any good army. They learned the lessons of 2016 and maybe Cambridge Analytica. But in fact, everyone who's using these tools for manipulation to profile has actually gone to the next level. So I think these tools are both more subtle and more pervasive. They are clearly being used by state actors like Russia to be able to stir people up. And so in fact, we probably need something that's more active. We probably need task squads inside of these companies that are looking at exactly how these tools are being used to manipulate and then putting in as much resistance to that as they can. And that resistance isn't tagging a tweet as, oh, this information might be slightly wrong. It's actually shutting these accounts down, following the chains as if you're tracking down a virus, following the links of association, and then cutting all of that out.
But is that likely to happen? This is not necessarily in their interests.
It is not in their financial interests. Facebook tends to work right up to the line of where they get the attention of regulators, and certainly with the Cambridge Analytica scandal, they got too much regulatory attention. So if the regulators come in before the election with that kind of overview, then perhaps we'll see something happen. It doesn't look like, again, because of the lockdown and because things are proceeding very slowly in the political sphere right now, that we'll actually have that kind of attention until after the election.
And is there anything campaign managers within the election part, particularly, I guess, for the Democrats, is there anything they can do to counter it other than saying simply that's a fake tweet or that didn't happen?
You always are faced with the question of whether you should fight fire with fire. Whether in fact, if one side is using fake news, then you generate your own fake news. And I suppose this is a temptation that so far they've resisted. I wonder if we'll be saying the same thing in November.
We will watch with interest. Mark, great to talk as always. Thank you.
Thank you.